Let me try to get the DOT presentation. Oh, hybrid meeting. Let me just read the hybrid meeting. So this is, and Jim, why don't you try to get the DOT while I do this? So this is a Board of Selectmen regular meeting, April 15th, immediately following the town meeting that started at 6:30 and was adjourned to Yeoman's Hall. This is a hybrid public meeting. The public can attend in person or electronically. The information provided in this agenda contains the link to access the meeting electronically. The public may view the video recording of the meeting on YouTube at Town of Columbia CT. Please allow approximately 48 business hours after the meeting for the video to be published. The public input before the meeting, please email your comments to publicinput@columbiact.org prior to 24 hours before the meeting. Each speaker has a maximum of 2 minutes upon recognition to address the Board of Selectmen. And Bill, now, this part of the meeting is for a presentation from the DOT considering centerline rumble strips on Route 87. And we have two representatives of the DOT here. One, Rob Smith. You're going to use your part, Rob.
Yeah, this is called Alvarez. Yeah, so I'm Rob Smith. I'm a traffic engineer at the Connecticut DOT in the traffic safety unit.
Claude, I'm a witness, also traffic engineer with, traffic operations.
Yeah, and we're here tonight to talk about centerline rumble strip installation on Route 87 over by Columbia Lake. Next, please. So yeah, we're just going to talk about the plans for the job, what centerline rumble strips are, why we use them, and then the costs and the schedule. This is a project location. So it's 3 locations, 4 curves by Columbia Lake on Route 87. The town requested the installation of rumble strips there due to repeated crashes. Connecticut DOT looked into it and concurred that centerline rumble strips would be the option there to reduce the crashes that are happening. And yeah, it's happening in that location, and it's approximately the whole length of that is a little bit more than a half mile. So what are centerline rumble strips? So the groove patterns in the middle of the road. You know, I think we've all had experience driving over shoulder rumble strips, you know, on the highway. They make a lot of noise. These are a lot different. They're shallower, they're spaced farther apart. We call them sinusoidal, it just means they have a wavy shape to them. And basically outside of the vehicle, they're gonna make a lot less noise, but inside the vehicle, they're still gonna be loud and they're gonna provide that vibration. So if someone is distracted or it's just poor visibility, fog, dark out, or they're unfamiliar with the road, it's gonna direct them back into their lane so that they're not crossing over. So the kinds of crashes that are affected by centerline rumble strips. So we started installing them because they're a proven safety countermeasure from federal highway. So the most recent year that we have complete crash data is 2023, and in Connecticut there were 36 fatalities and more than 2,000 injuries from head-on and opposite direction crashes. 1 in 3 of the people involved in those crashes were injured in those crashes were under the age of 25. So this is definitely, and they do tend to be more severe crashes. So it's definitely a countermeasure that we like to use for the types of crashes that it targets. So we looked at the past 5-year crash history in that segment of Route 87. and looked about, maybe 4 of the crashes there could have been prevented by the center line rumble strips. There was also another 10 additional, lane departure crashes, so it just means that there was a crash and someone left the lane either to the left or the right, so either over the center line or to the side of the road. You know, those are pretty sharp curves over there on Route 87. Some of those crashes involve injuries, so like I said, they do tend to be more severe crashes. Michigan study showed that they do have a good effect on target crash, especially head-on collisions. UConn did a preliminary study for us. We've only been installing them for, a few years now, but they found the same thing in the state, that they are effective at reducing crashes, particularly the ones where people are crossing the center line or going off, any sort of lane departure crashes. So pretty much all the towns in Connecticut are gonna have center line rumble strips now. We've actually installed about 700 miles of them. We do it as part of regular paving or town requests like this. And actually, we just updated our inventory, and so next year that's gonna be pretty much all green. In terms of this project, the total cost, for where we want to install them on Route 87 is, almost $3,000. They're very inexpensive, about $1 per foot to install, so that's why, we like them, is because they're a great countermeasure. We can install them in a lot of places and prevent a lot of crashes. Installation would take place, most likely this year. Paid for 100% state funds, wouldn't be any town funds for that. All right, and then if you guys have questions, we can take questions. Also, that the contact information, dot.trafficengineering@ct.gov for my group, also for Claudelle's group.
I was gonna say, DOT.traffic engineering.
Oh, okay. So you can get it full. And that's it, yeah. So those are just extra slides in case people have questions.
Yes, so I live on that particular section of road, and my observation is that the underlying cause is speed. So while rumble strips might be good, it doesn't get at the core issue. When you are traveling either east or west or north south, whoever it is on 87. In that particular area, there's not even a sign that says congested area, reduce speed. There are solar powered LED speed limit signs that flash as you come to give you a warning to slow down. If you really want to get at the issue of why people are crossing the lines and reducing accidents, you've got to get at the speed issue. So can you please comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, we would definitely agree. From the Connecticut DOT, just again, from our viewpoint, that's something that we try to work a lot with local police and state troopers on. Those, as engineers, there's only so much we can do about speed. We can't put speed bumps everywhere, but for sure, those signs have been used in a lot of towns. UConn had a program a few years ago where they made those your speed signs available on trailers to people. So, that's something that the town wants to work more with us on, and some other options. It's always something that we're talking about for sure.
And wait, sir, can we have your name and address again for the record?
Yes, Alan Aleia, ALEIA, 172 Route 87.
Thank you.
Maggie E. Wall, I live at 47 Route 87. I had talked to our first selectman, Steve Everett, about concerns with the accidents a number of years ago. And I had talked to him about possibly the speed bumps that you're talking about. And he indicated at the time that there were other people in town that had similar concerns and had those installed in the past, and then we're unhappy that they were installed. I wasn't sure if it, I'm concerned it's just gonna create more noise. And the traffic that we have already is creating noise that we never used to have. We have the huge trucks from Pride's Corner. We have some compost company coming through from Lebanon, I believe. Half the trucks can barely make it over the hill and cause traffic backups. And there's a lot of the milk tankers from the dairy farms. But I had asked Steve at that point, if there was any chance of getting cameras that are like when you go through toll booths or something that take, you know, if they spot a speeding vehicle, they get the license plate number and they can ticket them. And at that time, my husband, I heard that they've also changed in the state of requiring as far as the sound level of vehicles. I'm not as familiar with that, but I had asked about that and I talked to Mark, our town manager, also about these as opposed to having these speed bumps.
Yeah, so I can talk about, for sure, the noise related to the centerline rumble strips. And then also for the automated camera enforcement, what's going on with that right now. So, in terms of the noise, these are supposed to be, the quieter version of the rumble strips. They call them mumble strips. I've gone out myself, and had, people drive over them, and they are definitely much quieter. One of the things that we look for when we install them, one of the reasons that we agreed with the town that they were a good option there, was that the width of the road generally would allow for people to not be drifting over there, just kind of routinely, just because it would be like a 20-foot road or something. For the most part, it's 30 feet or wider there. And anywhere that we've installed them where, the road width is sufficient and we don't have people just continuously drifting over, we haven't been getting those complaints after the install. The town that I know they had that issue, the road was about 20 feet, 21 feet wide. So it was almost impossible to avoid them. So in terms of the noise, we haven't been seeing the kinds of issues, but totally understand that people are concerned about it. For the speed enforcement cameras, that's something that the state allowed by state statute just recently. And though it was focused on certain areas in towns, and towns can apply for them, red light enforcement cameras, and then if you do speed at school zones, I think too.
I'm not sure, I know we're doing the red light enforcement camera, I'm not sure if I can see.
So since that's regulatory, that's handled by the OSTA, the Office of State Traffic Administration, and they're rolling that out. But yes, so they are starting to allow municipalities to start doing enforcement through cameras alone. And so that's something that towns can apply for.
And also with that segment of wood as well, we're only gonna be focused around the curves only. That's the only place we're gonna be installing the centerline rumble strips. So once you get past the curve and you turn to a tangent section, we're gonna stop right there and then continue at the next curve. So just to reduce the amount of noise.
Yeah, we would.
87 is a state highway. Does the town have any right to say yes or no on this, or are you just your courtesy?
Oh, the town requested. This was it.
So this was with collaboration with the town.
We want to hear the opinion on each of that.
I've lived most of my life on one of those curves. And it's important sound, just the tire noise alone. These may be quieter than what you got on the side of the road, but they're gonna make more noise than the tires. And there's enough tire and engine noise already there. And so the tire noise itself, this is gonna amplify that. And matter of fact, for the last 20 years, instead of being right on that curve, I've been on the other side of the lake, and you can hear the tire noise from the dam at Lake Road at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I listen to it quite a bit as I row around the lake at that hour. And so I imagine that this is not going to be a happy experience for people in the neighborhood, particularly those who still live on 87. And yes, maybe after a period of time, people will learn to, stay away, but there's still gonna be noise when people cross to make a turn into Whitney Road or somewhere else. And I favored the gentleman saying that there were other options that could be tried first that are not noisy, better signage, enforcement, and the blinking would be a good idea.
Rob, you want to talk about the signage you put in on it?
Yeah, so we did have a curb warning sign project that went through, and those were installed just this past construction season. We put in the chevron signs to increase the visibility, and they have a little retro reflective strip underneath. The other thing I would say about the rumble strips is that we don't install them anywhere where there isn't a center line pavement marking. So if there is a break, so if there's an intersection, we don't install them in the middle of the intersection. Sure.
All right, it's 31 Route 87. Isn't it possible to put some big electronic signs that say the dangerous curve, sharp curve before that curve on either end on the lake? Something that's noticeable.
So what we notice is that when we analyze the crash pattern, we notice is that even though everyone think it's speeding, it's really adverse weather condition and also distracted driving, someone on their cell phone, someone not paying attention to the road. So I don't think a sign's gonna help. I think it's, you just gotta get.
Help.
Hmm?
You don't think it would help?
Well, a larger sign, I think, well, when you're on your cell phone not paying attention to the road, you're not gonna see that curve coming at you. We notice that majority of the crashes that are occurring is because it's due to distracted driving. So what we find out is.
Hi, Mary Reynolds, 34 County Road. I'm actually asking a question for my friend to the right here, Michelle, and got at 103 Lake Road. Her question is, how does snow and ice affect these rumble strips?
Like, their effectiveness. As far as any that I've experienced, and anytime I'm on an empty road, I do try them to see how they're working, they still work. So the the wavy sinusoidal ones that we install are very shallow, so, they still produce a noise, and a vibration, even, pretty much in any condition. Yes.
Wouldn't that mean that the ice would sit in the depression instead of being plowed away? Would that make the road slipperier? Or am I missing something?
Well, just because I was saying that they're so shallow, they do tend to dry out pretty fast. I can't guarantee that they're gonna be as dry as
There's no
this.
study on this is just an opinion? Or is there something that actually says that they don't hold ice?
They do take longer for sure to dry out than the rest of the road, but, I mean, I do drive around in the winter time, I do look at them and. I usually see that it's not a long-term problem, for sure, if it's an hour after a snow or something and, the shoulder is still wet, I definitely know.
Well, and I have just one other thing to say, you said that the road is the right width for a center rumble strip. I live near the corners, 135, Buchanan. And I notice all the time that the tractor trailers, the farm trucks, the dump trucks, they have a hard time, even if they're going at a decent speed, not to go over the rumble line. And that's gonna be constant for us. We also have a lot of people who walk and ride up the street, and you know that when you pass somebody that's walking or riding, you have to go over the center line. This is, for me, I have a problem listening to the noise because it's a speed issue. It is not You're saying it's distracted driving. I like to see the reports that say that, because I couldn't really find anything online, so I don't know where it's being stored. But for those of us who live there, it's speed. I've almost been run off of my mailbox trying to get my mail, because they come around that corner and they're actually in the white, not on the yellow. But the trucks are very large for this road, and they are going to constantly be hitting the wrong people. And I personally don't want to listen to it. I moved to the country for at least some peace and quiet. That's just my opinion.
No, thank you, no, we appreciate it. I guess, and, you know, we appreciate all the feedback that people give us. And just in terms of the crash data, only because it is available online, UConn does put the crash data on, if you Google UConn crash repository, there is a way, and that's public, anyone can sign up for an account if you do want to take a look. So that, we use the same data because, they're a pretty good source, they pull it from the police reports.
John McGann also, 13587. Listen, I appreciate you guys really taking a hard look at this, because I think we're all concerned about, you know, what's going on 87. I concur that it is speed, honestly, God, it's speed that's going on out there. And I appreciate you're doing this, but are there other traffic calming things that you can look at other than a rumble strip to create some kind of a way so that people aren't speeding around these corners and speeding up and down to accept really?
Because I think they're gonna speed. And
They're just, right,
just the strips are gonna stop, and it's just, and they're gonna go when they're doing here.
Well, no, with,
That-
one of the things.
And I'm referencing like, town of West Hartford has a bunch of traffic calming areas.
Yeah.
Now, they do have wide roads, granted, but, I'm just wondering if there's other ways we can kind of take a look.
One thing we're focused on was the speed sign, as well as enforcement, that's pretty much all that works when it comes to speeding.
So the dynamic feedbacks.
The dynamic feedback signs are the signs that as you coming up the road, if you go over the speed limit, they'll tell you your speed.
That'd be great, even that, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, comment was made that the town wants to get comments, was that the comment based on questions and so on?
Well, I have a written comment I'm gonna read next, but we
Okay.
want comment.
But, well, I just want to make one quick comment, and this is directed to the town. It would seem based on the discussion that, you know, this is a no-cost option for the town, $2,700 the state's gonna pay for it. But it's pretty clear that it isn't gonna address the issue. So, in terms of, placating or trying to address the issue, it clearly isn't going to do that. So, you know, in terms of raising the nuisance level. And, you know, it's clear from what people are saying, that the noise and the other issues are a concern. And that the rumble strip, while, you know, is effective in some situations, that's not gonna address this. So, I'm glad we're not paying any of our local tax dollars to install this, because it's not gonna be effective, and we consider it to be a non-solution. So I guess the feedback to the town would be is, can we really try to address this with some of the signage and some of the speed, the LED speed lights, and, you know, some of the things that really get at the real issue of reducing the speed in that very congested area, which isn't marked. It isn't marked. That's the cause. This is nice. And it's, you know, it's nice that the state's paying for it. It's only $2,700, but save the $2,700.
Sir, state your name and address for the record again.
Alan Aleia, ALEIA, 172 Route 87.
Thank you.
John Vogler, 6 Collins Road. As opposed to putting in grooves that are gonna annoy everyone. And we hear traffic quarter mile or half a mile without rumble strips, or where you wanna put them. So I can't imagine what we're gonna hear once you put them in. Can we consider traffic control at the end of Whitney Road? Anybody who drives down the track, come back out on 87, knows that's a difficult turn on a Saturday morning. Make that a three-way stop sign. You bring everyone to a stop right before those curves, how much speed can they pick up through the curves? As opposed to, as he said, having a non-solution to the problem. Bring them to a stop at Whitney Road, or there's another little neighborhood back in there, even further down than one, at that last intersection. Then they can't build up speed headed to the dam.
Okay, the only thing is that, when we designed, we used federal guidelines, and so that roadway, I don't think any road that intersected is gonna meet the guidelines for always stop control.
For a stop line?
For always stop on way for the state road. I can look at it, but I
You
don't
can
think
go
so.
out on Whitney Road and look to your left. You're coming up the hill and around the curve. You don't know whether anybody's coming southbound on 87.
Oh, you're talking about like
90% of the time.
oh, sideline issue, well, sideline issue, we don't consider always stop for sideline issues,
I'm just saying, if he wants to slow people down, a stop sign slows people down.
Exactly,
And
but
make the
we can't
intersection safer
install,
all around.
we don't install stop signs everywhere, there's criteria that need to be met. Before we can actually go out and install an always stop control at an intersection.
Has it been looked
I can look at the traffic data, but I doubt that it will meet the guidelines for always stop control.
Rob, so read a letter. Oh, sure. Like, we had a letter sent in. Leslie. Fial. Cabis. Sorry if I forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. 29 Upper Woodland Terrace. I've been at this address for 24 years. I've had first-hand experience with the traffic tendencies in this area as I pull in and out of our streets several times on a daily basis. Thank you for addressing this increasingly dangerous and potentially deadly situation due to the short sight lines of the southbound traffic cresting the hill by Camp Asquama just before our street and the curvature of the road for both southbound and northbound traffic by the dam. Though the speed limit is 35 miles per hour at the top of the hill heading southbound, my car has shaken from the speed of oncoming cars and trucks that come like rockets over the crest of the hill and down towards the dam. As I wait to make a left onto our street, pulling out on 87 in either direction, I practically get whiplash, having to look again to make a left-hand turn out on the Woodland Terrace. Again, because of the speed with which traffic travels and the unique characteristics of this portion of 87. While navigating the curve of the dam from both directions, I can confidently tell you that more vehicles than not are unable to maintain their lane due to the speed they're traveling, the size of the vehicles, or both. Often, instead of crossing the center line, drivers will use the shoulder as a travel lane. While I think the center rumble strips are a good start, I would suggest an additional step, but perhaps people are not aware that a speed limit on 87 northbound after you cross 66 reduces to 35, and that the speed limit on the southbound side reduces to 45 to 40 to 35 as you travel up the hill southbound on 87. The installation of solar speed limit signs that flash along with radar feedback signs that read your actual speed and tell you to slow down will alert people and bring attention to the fact that the speed limit in this area is only 35 miles an hour. Again, thank you for your attention to this issue and for your consideration.
John Hoffman, 126, Route 87. Listening to all these comments, I'd just like to suggest to the town that I've not heard anybody that's in favor of proceeding with this matter, and certainly others have pointed out other things that we should pursue. But specific to the idea of center strip, rumble strips, nobody has been in favor of that, and I hope the board will consider that before proceeding.
Olivia Evans, 173 Route 87. I just have a question for the town also. Was there a meeting prior to the request Because I feel like it was requested, but we're like saying the same thing, but it's not that, it's speed. So if there had been a meeting before, we could overall pay attention to the speed and not so much the lane diving.
I can address that, that we've been working on this for 2 years, and signage was the first step that the state put in. It still is not addressing, it's helping a little maybe, but not enough. And the state approached us saying, we recommend center rumble strips. Not the side rumble strips, just the center. And that's why we're having this meeting, to get input from the town. Yes.
Okay, just one comment.
Oh, name
I
and
looked at
address.
the strips, I'm sorry.
Name and address,
Ebar's Peterson's, 36 Route 87.
thank you.
I agree with the speed problem and I think the strips are fine. But I think I'm also concerned about the non-vehicle problem. I'm talking about bicyclists, walkers, people walking, and our canine friends. That they like to walk around Route 87 because it's a congested area. A lot of people live there. And the problem I see is there are no shoulders in that area. Is there any possibility of DOT saying, and look at the shoulders in some of these key areas? And I think even a foot on one side and on the other side could make the thing a lot safer for people who are not in a vehicle on Route 87. Thank you.
And that is a good question. So we're in the traffic group, so we're usually doing signs and pavement markings and some safety treatments like the centerline rumble strips. But that's definitely something that we can ask about, and for sure, if there's a way for us to get in touch later, if you send us an email or.
Yeah. So if you email the DOT that trafficengineering@ct.gov and send in that question of opinion, we can forward that to the right project designer to look into.
Just forward it to town administrator.
And so also go back to your question as well. I mean, as part of this, we're actually gonna install possibility, we're still deciding. We're gonna proposing to install slippery and wet signs. It's a sign that's like, it's a big sign that's a car that's fishtailing as they're going up.
I'm just saying,
On the curve.
put bright enough signs up on either end of that curve.
Yeah, that's
That's
what
gonna help.
Yeah,
It doesn't look like that's gonna
because
help.
one of our thing we looked at was like,
And it needs to happen. That's a dangerous goddamn curve.
Yeah.
And too many people getting hurt and killed in that place.
As part of the sign project, we did put advanced warning signs there too, along with the chevrons in the curve. But we're not talking about the same curve too, that's possible.
I'm talking about the curve by the pavement.
Okay, I will check on that.
The one at Whitney Road is a bad one too.
Okay. Yeah, I will double check that we put them at that curve too. Because I thought we put them at all the orchards.
I believe you'll double check, but I also believe nothing will get done about it.
Okay.
Hi, CJ was 29 double bay. Not necessarily opposed to the road strips and certainly not to radar activated speed signs, but I did a quick look online. And there's very little information on pricing other than companies that say, request a quote. I found one site that said they can run 2,500 to 7,500. And to put 2 or 3 on those on Route 87 would be a little bit expensive. I'm assuming the DOT doesn't pay for that or doesn't contribute towards it. It would be a town expense and we'd also be responsible for maintenance. And if that's a reasonable cost, please tell us one way or the other, so people probably know.
Your speed signs are like enforced?
Yeah, your speed, at least your speed ones that, you are traveling so fast. Is there a difference when they're enforcement type and maybe take, camera picture of a license or?
Yeah, those we don't have yet in Connecticut, that's why I was just double checking. But yeah, actually, UConn did have a program to make those available to the towns, but
The
generally.
ones that just give you the speed,
Yeah, the ones that just give you the speed, we don't have any plans right now for another project, for that, but there are lots of grants through COGS, the Council of Governments for Safety Grants, and that's how a lot of towns end up installing some of the safety stuff if we don't have an ongoing project.
All right, and so if the town wanted to do it, then they could maybe investigate getting a grant to appropriate the cost, what you're saying.
Yes, the regional councils of government do have.
We would end up paying for it to some extent, as opposed to rubber strips we would cause it.
So, yeah, so UConn does provide each town two of those signs, and we find it very effective when it's being moved around, like you'll be given two, and the town that apply when it push a permit to actually have
You
it.
guys could provide us.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we provide two for each town, but if any additional one will have to be paid, like Rob said, for a grant or for the towns on means.
Sounds like something the town should investigate.
We did take advantage of that grant. We got two speed signs. They've both been damaged and destroyed and they're no longer in use. So I don't know how they got disabled, but people decided they didn't like seeing the speed signs and destroyed the electronics.
Oh, they analyzed them, they didn't crash into.
Correct, they were vandalized.
Yeah, hi, Phyllis Dunn, 14 River Drive. My question is, how expensive are the overhead speeding units that you have in the municipalities?
Like the enforcement cameras, those, just because those are handled by the.
Now, we're looking into that. That's a whole different program and we have already done the study. They've analyzed all our speed within town, so that's in process of deciding whether we want to do one of those speed ticketing enforcement cameras. So that's a whole nother conversation.
Thank you.
Welcome.
If you can tell, that's not my group, so he would know more of this.
Maria Murray, 59 Route 87. I live right by there. I mean, we've seen at least 5, 6 accidents in the middle of the night. And I would say all of them have been speed related. The noise, you know, in that area with all the trucks and all the traffic is pretty bad. So we are not very, we're not into getting the rumble strips. Our goal would be to say that we would prefer to find other options. You know, the lighting, you know, maybe LED lighting signs, anything that would call the attention of the drivers and posting the speed limit. That's very dangerous. We're right on it at 59, right by there. So, yeah, we have enough specifics.
I have one more letter from Gary King. I won't read the whole letter, I'll get to the point. In addition to the repeated crashes involving vehicles crossing the center line, I can also report that my wife Shirley was run off the road last summer when a tractor trailer exited the curve at the bottom of the hill, was halfway into her lane. Luckily, there was a lawn there, and she was able to run up on the lawn to avoid the tractor trailer. I'm sure there have been lots of near misses. I raised the point, however, about how dangerous it is to enter and exit Woodland Terrace based upon the speed at which some vehicles come over the crest of the hill. Entering becomes even more of a problem when vehicles are waiting to exit Woodland Terrace. You cannot hesitate knowing that a speeding vehicle may be coming over the crest of the hill. I believe that a solar speed sign should be installed at the top of the hill and possibly at the bottom before you enter the curve. Drivers do brake when they see how fast they are going.
Yes.
Yes, Maggie Wall, 3787. I wanted to say, I kind of was surprised how quickly this all came up. We had other plans tonight, but have changed because of it. But I'm also concerned because we live in that area of the curve near the dam. And 4 of our neighbors are not here tonight, and I know in the past, we've talked about how concerned we are about this. One lives in Texas, another one is in Wallingford, and another one is in Florida. And I'm not sure the 4th one, who has really been affected, has lost a mailbox and had to replace it. I don't know how many times.
Maybe 2 dozen times.
At least,
It was right on the corner.
right in the curve.
Yeah.
They're my neighbors.
Yep.
Joanne.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. And I have some people on chat. Stephen Everett, who is joining us through the chat, said that we have asked the DOT for curb ahead and lit signs, and the state has said no. Can you address that, Rob?
That one, I don't think it was.
So we got the chevrons and we got, but we wanted a lit sign stating some sort of illuminated LED sign stating that this is a curve ahead. Does that exist? Because now I'm seeing the LED stop sign.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if there was an LED chevron or an LED sharp curve ahead sign.
As of this moment, I'm not aware that we are installing that, but if the town is interested, that's something that you can apply for the interest permit for and install itself. So,
Well, our only concern is we've literally been working at this for 2 years. But, and this is probably one of the more, you can see that's the crash data. I just came from a conference today. And that is probably an area where the fire department has had many cars flip over and be upside down and on fire as a result of leaving the highway over the years. So it's a tough area. And I think what you're hearing here is that rumble strips aren't, even though we're alerting that you've left the center of the highway, it's not gathering a lot of support.
yeah.
Speed is the issue. 35 miles an hour is probably too fast for trucks on that curve. Why not even think about reducing the speed when you come down around the dam and put up signs, reduce speed ahead, dangerous curve, and drop it, 5 to 10 miles an hour or more, and enforce, and people will learn and respect it better.
I just before I say, did the town request to OSTA to have any speed limits adjusted yet, or?
We haven't, because I think that the concern is always if you adjust the speed limits too low, people will laugh at them and just go even faster if it's an unrealistic speed, because 35. I mean, trying to get people to go slower than 35 there would probably be impossible.
Well, they're doing 60 now. so-
Right, that's my point. They're going so fast that they're rocketing off the highway.
But at 25, the ticket for going 50 is a lot bigger.
And possibly.
Mark,
Ticketing speed camera in that area that could enforce the speed limit.
Mark,
Steven, go ahead.
yeah, I'd like to summarize and then probably move on to what looks like it's going to be a long night ahead. So the truth, listen, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. This has been brought up to me numerous times while I've been sitting in that chair in Yeoman's Hall. And I got to thank the Board of Selectmen who have fought with me on this thing. We've come up with a lot of issues, but we're dealing with a state highway and we're dealing with state bureaucracy. We have asked for other signage there. We have asked for lit signs that have the red dots going around the borders of the signs. We have asked for many things to happen there, and they came back and said, hey, how about rumble strips through the center? We're bringing this to your attention. So to let you know, one, we're still fighting this for everybody in town. Number two, we got work to do, and it's the state we're up against. I understand it's speed limit. There's no doubt about it. I'm not sure why anybody walks on 87, to be honest with you, but that's their right, and we should keep them safe. I understand that too. But know this, the town and the Board of Selectmen are fighting hard. You have two representatives here from the DOT and engineering group. They've heard you, and the Board of Selectmen continue to hear you, and we're not done. So I understand. I'm glad you came out tonight. I'm not ready to vote for rumble strips. I hear you. I'm sure the other board members hear you too. But I also hear, as these two gentlemen do, we're not done. So I would suggest, if nobody has any other questions, get suggestions into us. It's a state road. It's a state, and we just got to keep fighting. So I appreciate you coming out.
Thank you. And that was Steve Nedder, our legal secretary and first selectman. And one more.
Hey, one more for a minute. The answer there is, suppose, I suspect you know it's a state highway, but is it possible, or state route, is it possible to designate that section of 87 as a no food trucks road only for local delivery? So here you have your oil delivery, your hands-on, you know, have, big trucks rolling through back and forth. Is that possible to prevent?
Well, there is a way to apply for that, but Mark's saying that
We've applied for that. It cannot happen in a section of highway that goes from one end of the town to the other. If a road dead ended into a farm field, you could say no through trucking, but you're not gonna do no through trucking on state highway.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next, item, pretty much covered,
And Maggie, if your husband could get me in writing what your thoughts are. If you could get in writing what your thoughts are, I'd be happy to assemble them.
I'm gonna move on to the next agenda item, which is Columbia Lake after hours. Lake access.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. Go ahead.
Okay, Columbia Lake after hours lake access. We met last week on this, but I'm gonna ask the town administrator to comment on anything back here. Mark, could you comment on the, we have this on again this week as far as the agenda?
Comment on access after hours.
Yes, please.
So what we've been looking at, probably the number one idea that we've been going around is actually just like when you go into a hotel, you're given a card key which will access the gate. And that can have its own special identification to each person. And it will give us a history of who's gone into the lake. And if, for whatever reason, there's an issue and you're abusing your rights of after-hour access, that card key could be turned off. So that system would probably take at least 3 weeks to install. I know the fishermen probably want to get it on sooner. So that's what we're here to talk about, maybe an interim situation where we start up with the keys again. And then once we switch to the card key system, those are turned back in. But those details are not nailed down yet, and that's what we're trying to get. The lake is still 11 inches down. So there's other issues of how soon to have access to the lake to ensure that there's
So if
no.
we can get your vote on there right now.
Now, just ask for the talk. So. All those issues are being brought together. LMAC just met tonight as well. Haven't heard back from what their thoughts were. But Bill, I don't have a concrete solution. Stephen, I don't know if you want to address anything, or if you want to hear from the audience first.
Keep going, go ahead.
Okay, so Bill, does LMAC have any thoughts concerning lake access at this moment?
Yes, so we did meet prior to your meeting tonight, and we do support, the development of a key card access system at the gate, and as well, if you think that it's best to, restart the, key lock system, that was used last year, but we would support that, to have that as an interim step. Is, until the key card system is put in place.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Okay, move on to Columbia Lake revised town ordinances. I understand that LMAC is still working on those ordinances, is that correct?
We had provided a draft to the selectmen, at the meeting before. We were looking for, some feedback on that. I didn't know if we're through the access, issue or not. But with that, we were looking for guidance on the access issue, because that has to be massaged into the draft we've, put together. There's holes in the draft to accommodate that. And so we were looking for guidance tonight on how to do that. We would definitely like to try to have an ordinance in place for as large a part of the current season as we can. So we're looking to, again, support an interim or situation to get people on, and then with proper notice, this would kick in. The other thing we discussed tonight in terms of going back to the key thing, because of the importance of the environment, it was a recommendation that when the keys are given out, boats have to be inspected by the town, that the self-inspection would kick in after the first inspection, so that there would be at least a first inspection of every boat for purposes of horsepower and other issues, and that the people would, by watching how our newly trained inspectors do the invasive species inspection, they would know how to do their own when they're doing their self-inspection.
Thank you. So the gentleman,
Clarifying question, CJ Poulos, could you put even address for the record? CJ Poulos, 29 Delaware, thank you. You said 3 weeks to put it in, does that mean 3 weeks are like, 5-day work weeks, or 3 weeks to schedule it, and then it goes in very quick?
3 5-day work weeks.
Oh, yeah, so it's 3 weeks of work in man hours.
Well, it's ordering parts and
And then I assume you just update the town via Wi-Fi, so basically it's power, maybe
well, we haven't gotten the power yet, that's an issue, yeah. But right now, we will still have marine patrol and gate monitors manned. We're considering increasing their hours to start earlier on weekends. That's one thought that we're discussing. And the staff will continue to be the gate monitor during the day until marine patrol's on duty towards the afternoon on the weekdays.
Okay, sir. Al Rouse, 81 Route 87. Am I on the understanding that you're gonna have the keys now? We'll be able to get a key now until this 3-week period where you gotta have this certain card?
That's gonna be up to the board of selectmen.
Okay.
So that motion is not been made, or that's why we're having this meeting right now, to decide what's the best option to go forward.
Well, I would like to make that. Somebody, let's see.
All right, Stephen, I want your job. Lisa.
I just have one thing that I'd like to, on the motorboat length inspection, it's in the judgment. Can we get a couple plumb lines and a tape measure that reads 26 feet, and if the plums meet between the 26 feet, you're good to go?
First of all, it should be on the certificate of origin that they have to present. And most boats that are on the lake are less than 26 foot, so you're easily can tell if something's approaching being too
But I'm
big.
just saying, if it's 25 and 10 inches, you know, if you have
Yeah.
a couple plums or $10
Well,
a piece.
this is in place at Candlewood Lake, and I believe at other places, and it's, yes, it's a hard and fast line, but it's also a good dividing line for the length of boats as they're manufactured today. There's a certain class of boat that's under 26 feet that has less displacement and less proposes less damage to the environment, and those over 26 feet are bigger and have more displacement and cause more stirring of the bottom sediments, and what we're trying to avoid. And so we've gone with what the state had sanctioned for Candlewood Lake at 26 feet.
Go ahead, sir. Jeff Moore from 14th Columbia Landing. So some of the points in this proposed ordinance, I definitely have some serious concerns and questions about that need to be addressed. Specifically when it comes to residents self-inspecting and launching non-motorized watercraft from the property. I did a check in the town through the town records. I've identified 84 town properties that residents reside on. I've identified 33 properties that are owned by people that live out of the state of Connecticut. There's an additional 13 properties that are owned by state residents but do not live in town. These are properties that are going to have people coming into our town that aren't going to be necessarily aware. And how is the town going to hold those property owners to the same standard as residents with their self-inspection? On top of the 30 additional properties that I identified that are in some sort of a business or a trust with multiple different names on it based on percentages, which comes out to about 160 properties. So when you break down the numbers, you have 84 residents that have full-time residents within that are on the lake, and you have 76 properties that are questionable whether they're part-time, temporary, out-of-state residents or businesses, because there are a significant number of those properties that are registered as LLCs. So are they rental properties? So now we're having people coming in that don't know about our rules, don't know about the proposed town ordinance about self-inspection. And they're coming from all over the state of Connecticut or outside of Connecticut with invasive species and dropping their kayaks and their paddle boards and their canoes into the water. Yet when we look at last year for the 2024 season, there was a total of 42 keys that were put out, and 24 were off lake and 18 were on lake. So when you look at the percentages and the potential exposure and issues, okay, I think those on the lake property have a higher percentage of exposing the lake to potential damaging invasive species. That's the first part of the town ordinance that I have a problem with. The second part comes down to the horsepower inspection. I've spoken to numerous town employees who have come forward and said that there are people on the lake that have modified their alleged proper horsepower boats to be more powerful. So they can pull their skiers, so they can do whatever they want to do with a more powerful engine, but it's only supposed to be an 80 outboard or a 140 inboard. They've modified it. So really, when it comes down to the public, the town inspectors, what type of standard are we going to be doing for inspection for the true horsepower requirements? You know, they're listing that we're gonna go by the hull number and the original manufacturer. Well, there are watercraft out there that are older, they're significantly older. I own one, it's a 1996, and it's been repowered multiple times with either stronger motors or smaller motors. But based on the way the ordinance reads, we have to go on the original specs and Google what my boat was back in 1996. Even though I have two smaller motors, which comes to the other issue where it talks about only one motor. My jet boat has two. So now my jet boat that I've had for the last 8 years is now not gonna be allowed. Now you just took away the value of my family to be able to pull my kids out of the tubes and the water skis and the vehicles. Okay? It's very apparent that this ordinance is going back in time over a period of a couple years to specifically target stuff that people don't like. Specifically the houseboat, there's your length. I have a problem with the 26 foot. It's an arbitrary number. We're going by what other people are doing. Well, if we're doing what other people are doing, then, well, we should revisit their laws too. Instead of making our own. Okay, there's other issues that I have with this ordinance that I'm not gonna take up much more of the time. Because we can address it with written documentation to the Board of Selectmen. I strongly oppose any type of vote on this ordinance in any time soon. Until those issues that I brought up have just gotten addressed. Thank you.
Move on to new business now. You wanna come up with an interim for access to the lake?
You Steve want to weigh in on this one?
Or we could wait for him to get back and make him busy at the moment.
You might be on mute. It looks like he's on mute. I don't know if he's aware. Yeah,
Let me unmute.
hard to say. I don't know if there's-
Mark, are you asking me a question? Cause I can barely hear anything in there. It's like,
Yeah, that's the problem with this room. The owl doesn't really work in this room. We're asking, do you want to make a motion for an interim key access to the lake while we work on a card key system?
well, hearing the people that spoke and also hearing the representative from LMAC, yes, I would, I think I got it all. I don't know if I have the words really to make a motion. Maybe somebody who heard it all can do that, but I would support going to the key system until we can get a card system in order.
Is that good? Yes. So moved.
Can I ask a question? How long will it take to get the card key system?
We think 3 weeks, Judy,
Okay,
installed.
so I would agree that we should, use a key system until we can get that on board.
There's a motion to do so on the floor.
Want to take a vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
All in favor, can I just ask, so does that include going through the required inspections ahead of time and going through the
Every
training?
training, inspecting, sign off. Deposit. Everything.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Stephen Everett, aye.
I as well. Okay, unanimous. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Rudy.
The 2025 boat mooring lottery.
We do not need to do a lottery because we had 14 requests for moorings. We have 14 moorings. We have 8 slots for kayaks and we had 7 put in applications, and the kayak racks, we have 8 people that want to do kayaks and racks, so we're good all around, so we'll take care of that afterwards.
Establishing the American 250 Columbia Heritage Committee. We talk about that.
So right now, in not this July, but next July is our 250th anniversary of our country's founding. We'd like to set up a committee to help organize and create that as a memorable experience for all the residents. that'll happen on 4th of July, right after our parade. But we created a resolution, Jen and I, just kind of a stab in the dark start. We've sent it to our historical society. Judy, I think there's one waiting for you to look at. And, well, you have it through the board of selectmen, but also Ingrid, our town historian. And if the board could look at this and come back with ideas, but we'd like this committee to represent the library, the school, the historical society, the Lions, the board of selectmen, any other agencies within the town that feel they'd like to be involved. But this is something that I think needs a committee, just like it takes the Lions to put on the 4th of July parade. I think to do something afterwards, say at Rec Park, say a concert series or anything, you're gonna need a committee. So that's my challenge to the town, to see if anybody wants to be involved. But first of all, I think maybe at the next board of select meeting, we could wrap up the resolution and we give you a start.
Do you have anybody who wants to serve on the committee?
I hope you do, Judy.
Probably. We need people to do this.
Yeah, I have not had any volunteers yet.
Judy, I would ask Noreen Steele.
What did you say?
I would ask Noreen Steele.
Okay, that would be good. Yes. That would be, she would be great.
Okay.
Any other ideas would be welcomed.
Right now, I just wanted to tell you there's a letter here from the State Workers' Compensation Commission that they passed. They had a surprise audit of our town. And as a result of the review, it's determined that our facilities are in compliance with safety and health committee regulations. The Workers' Compensation Commission commends your town for establishing a safety and health committee, which makes the workplace safer for all employees. If you have any questions regarding these regulations, please feel free to contact us. And we have a safety committee meeting tomorrow. So, we do take it serious, and I am actually on the board of the state insurance board. And I review safety scenarios and risk that all towns experience and bring it back to Columbia. Keep trying to keep us safe from slipping and falling and OSHA compliant. And then Joanne Craig Doyle, I have good news. Someone at Rec Park found the plaque that was in honor of her mother and has returned it to us. So that plaque will be going back on the bench. We did have a resident who did, Mr. Samuel Schrander. He did purchase a new plaque, which is being made right now. So Joanne she's going to take the original plaque and have it at home. So it's a good ending. We're just sorry the vandalism happened. And then you'll be getting a budget flyer in the mail shortly, and that will document that we will be having a public hearing on April 23rd, right here at Nobles Hall, and then a town meeting on May 13th. To vote on the budget as well, here in the hall. That's all I have.
Seeing no correspondence, I move to the budget. I move to approve the transfer presented totaling $23,466. Any discussion?
I have a question on physicals, the fire department. Was it way more than? Yes. But I guess they must have had some recruitment and stuff, so.
It went over the normal.
Yeah, it's normal, so it's like, okay. So I asked how many more and they gave me the numbers, that's what the transfer's for.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
How about Stephen and Jude?
Yes, we're here.
I move that, to approve the payment of bills totaling $638,903.36, consisting of 2024 regular credit card and paychecks.
Yeah, that's a lot, Billy. You know, you,
Big items for the HVAC project, and the next payment, so.
So this is starting the payment for the HVAC.
Yes.
Right?
Second,
Second.
second invoice on the HVAC project, approved through the HVAC committee.
Okay.
And review, any discussion on that?
The HVAC is moving along. Chris, is it?
You already asked how the HVAC's moving along.
Yeah, it started a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
They're in the
They've
school.
been here, scheduled to be here throughout the week with the school being out, including Good Friday.
Okay.
All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
aye. Stephen Everett, aye.
Okay, audience and citizens. Anything further?
Henry Neck 41 Sleepy Hollow Road. Since we're gonna be going into executive session later, I don't think hanging around to after the meeting to try to ask these questions if appropriate, so I'm gonna ask now, but generally, there's several LNAC members still here and so forth. And we'd like some kind of general guidance. Would you like us to proceed with modifying the draft ordinance that we had before you to include a key card access thing, because it was left undone until we got some guidance from you, and we would like to be bringing something to you so that it could potentially be put in place this year and address the concerns that you raised with us about the fact that our existing ordinances weren't working and we were having difficulty with enforcement issues and other things. And these are all some of the things that are being designed to, the new ordinance is designed to address, in addition to the points that we've heard tonight, where there's a little bit of friction between some people in the community and what we've put together.
I think that would make sense.
Okay, thank you.
I would say put put that in there. The key card. I would say put the key card changes in there.
Okay, and we'll also be willing to help work on the transition from one to the other, and to help get the current key scenario up, because I understand that there'll be a few different things, so it won't be quite the same as it was before. That people will need to do the inspection, and the deposit is likely to change in some fashion or another.
Anything else? Board member comments?
Can I just point out a typographical or something for them to? So on the outline of the title and sections, the second document. So it's at the top of page 4. It's under time periods.
Yes.
So if you look at the first sentence at the very top of the 4th page, I think instead of all non-motorized water companies should be or. Because it looks like it's motorized, any motorized or non-motorized.
Right, I catch that. Thank you for that, that guidance.
And then for me, I gotta read the ordinance changes more carefully to know if I have any questions.
Judy said she wants to review them in more detail before she. Okay. I'm board member comments. I wonder what. First selected that he owes me big time. Now we adjourn to executive session. Time is 8:19.
And we'll invite, if so, myself and everyone to go. Please. Thank you. Thank you.
Mark, you want to stop the recorder?
At 8:35, we came out of executive session, not taking any action. I make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Al.
Nice,
Nice to
Good night.
You forgot those who said no.